Pigs by A. Wolf. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. You don't know how this whole big story about the big bad wolf got started, but it's all wrong.
Now everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard the wolf's side of the story.
But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong.
The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Way back, and once upon a time, the wolf was making a birthday cake for his dear old granny. And he had a terrible sneezing cold, and then he ran out of sugar. So the big bad wolf walked down the street to ask his neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor just happened to be a pig, and he wasn't too bright. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw?
So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want just to walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in?"
"Go away, Mr. Wolf."
He was just about to go home without his cup of sugar for his dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when his nose started to itch, and he felt a sneeze coming on.
Well, I huffed, and I snuffed, and achoo!
The whole darn straw house just fell right down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail.
It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Just think of it as eating a big cheeseburger.
Well, Mr. Wolf was feeling a little bit better, but he still didn't have his cup of sugar. So he went to the next door neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little bit smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. So he rang the bell on the stick house, and nobody answered.
Mr. Pig, are you in?"
"Go away, Wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin.
He had just grabbed the doorknob when he felt another sneeze coming on.
I huffed, and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed so great, achoo!
And you're not going to believe this, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. And when the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Now, you know food'll spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So the wolf did the only thing there was to do.
I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake, so I went to the next house.
This guy was the first and second little pig's brother, and he must have been the brains of the family, because he had built his house out of bricks. So Mr. Wolf knocked on the brick house, and there was no answer.
Mr. Pig, are you in?"
And do you know what that rude little pig answered?
"Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again."
Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar. And he wouldn't give the poor wolf just one little cup for his dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! And Mr. Wolf was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake, when he felt his cold coming on.
I huffed, and I snuffed, and once again, achoo!
"And your old granny can sit on a pin."
Now, Mr. Wolf is usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about his granny like that, he tends to go a little crazy. So when the cops pulled up, of course Mr. Wolf was trying to break down this pig's door. And the whole time, he was huffing and a puffing and a sneezing and making a real big scene.
The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured this sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up that whole story about the huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. And the rest, they say, is the history of the big bad wolf. Maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar.